BroadSign is a digital out-of-home software provider. We power over 120,000 displays worldwide, and for the past decade we have provided a content management system to manage the content that is received by media owners such as JCDecaux and oOh!media in Australia, and they put the content into our system, assign rules to it, so that the system automatically decides where and when the content should play. Now, this is actually what set us up for Programmatic, which is the topic of topics at DSE this year. And Programmatic to me really means the automation of workflows based on data. When you look at our CMS, it is really what has allowed all of our networks to scale so easily, which is something that, as our industry grows, is very important. We want to make digital signage simple to deploy, and an automated CMS is really what allows network operators to do so with minimum OpEx. And going into Programmatic a little bit further, what we're talking about now is the automation of media buying and selling. So there was a question that we had been discussing earlier, which is how is Programmatic going to change the digital out-of-home industry? And I'd actually like to just talk a little bit about a concept that I'm enthralled with called creative destruction. It was coined by a fellow named Joseph Schumpeter, and it's really about capitalist markets and how we go through periods of the status quo, where things operate as usual, and then they are disrupted by shocks. And those shocks render competitive advantages irrelevant because there are new ones that take place. And we can all relate to this in our everyday lives through the consumption of music. We went from records to cassettes to CDs to MP3s. And in the out-of-home industry, well, even longer, we went from drawings on walls in the caveman periods to hand-painted billboards, to vinyl printed billboards, to digital screens. And those were all tangible shocks, or creative destructions. And with Programmatic, we're seeing an intangible shock to our industry, where we're using software to automate buying and selling. And what I believe this is going to do over the next few years is allow us to tap into the ad budgets that have previously been dominated by digital or online advertising, as well as mobile, and help digital out-of-home expand our share of the pie and be taken a little bit more seriously by the media world. Programmatic media buying has changed the game, and what it's done is, in BroadSign's perspective, when we were selling our CMS and providing it to the various media owners in our space, such as, once again, JCDecaux and Clear Channel and Exterion Media, we never had to speak to agencies, because the media owners were always the ones dealing with the buying and selling of media and the work on creative. But over the past year, as we've prepared to launch BroadSign Serve SSP, our supply-side platform that enables Programmatic, customized for digital out-of-home, we've had the opportunity to speak to agencies. And that's actually very excitingly become my role. I moved to New York to do this very thing. And what I have found is that agencies, for one, weren't always aware of all the many things they could do with our space. BroadSign has a plethora of features to use in many different verticals and applications, and we're always looking at ways to target audiences in very relevant times and places. And it can be as simple as at a gas station, we power Shell stations, depending on the type of fuel grade that's selected, different ads will play. It just makes sense. It's so easy, but nobody would really think of it if they didn't know that it existed. So discussions about Programmatic have increased everybody's understanding of what they can do with our medium in a very dynamic and targeted way, but they will also allow these buyers who are used to buying digital and mobile access digital out-of-home in the same interface, which just makes it that much easier to say, I'm doing a buy for this campaign targeting this audience, and if these screens in a different media are targeting that very audience, why wouldn't I add it into my campaign and just see what happens? You know what? It goes both ways, because By talking to them, we get a really full perspective of what their frustrations are with our industry as well. It's a really outward thinking way to expand our space. Digital Signage Expo is a great show to come to for us to all talk together. But what I've noticed this year already, and the show has just started this morning, is that there are many new types of visitors from agencies, for example, or from creative outlets, and they're starting to take a look and wonder what's going on here. So it's wonderful in that we're able to expand the conversation and learn from each other. Where we are now is just the precipice of something huge, and I say that not only on BroadSign's behalf, but of all the media owners that we work with and the agencies that are eager to just dive into digital out of home. So programmatic media buying and selling, once again, is going to expand our space. We're going to see a lot more interest in executing pilot campaigns by buyers who have never really tried digital out of home before, or are now able to buy across networks in a way that they haven't before. Previously in our space, it has been a challenge to make a total audience buy, because in certain regions the media buyers will have to speak to many different networks or media owners, or as we say in the digital world, publishers, in order to coordinate a campaign. And they'll send out various types of creative specs at different deadlines, and then at the end of everything they'll receive a bunch of proof of performance reports in different formats. And it doesn't make our space easy to buy or easy to work with. So programmatic will allow them to go to one place, BroadSign serve SSP, and make a buy across networks that are operating on the same platform. They'll receive the same proof of performance reports, and we'll just streamline the workflow. At BroadSign, we deal with a lot of different types of customers, and our customers are expanding, obviously, because now that we're getting into programmatic space, we're talking to brands and agencies who are also becoming our customers. But in terms of media owners or publishers, we see those who are starting up, and we see those who have scale, and we actually have most of our wins from networks that have expanded to hundreds or thousands of displays that they're operating, and they're running on either a proprietary software or a software that they thought would have been perfect for the early stages, and is no longer efficient when they're operating a network so large. And they come and make the switch to BroadSign system because it's automated and allows them to easily work with very minimal resources at hand. So what I would recommend is, first and foremost, for startups or for networks that are wanting to get themselves off the ground, Finance 101, make sure you have a business model that within a reasonable amount of time is going to ensure that profit will come to the network. Because if that's not in place, unfortunately, with capitalist markets, the network won't be around for too long. And that's certainly not what we want to see in our space. We want to see those who are thriving. So research about what makes a successful network, be it ad-based, where revenue can come in through advertising, or through a different model. We see a lot of different solutions in corporate communications, in offices, even in doctors' offices where they don't want advertising. So there are many solutions. Talk to networks who are already in the vertical that you want to operate within. They'll have a lot of, the tried and true best practices to share. And the great thing about digital signage, and I said this from when I started, and I'll say this now, is that everybody in our industry is so passionate about growing our space that even if they might be competing in the same vertical, they're still going to share resources because that's just the way we operate. So one, making sure the business model is sound. And then, as I alluded to earlier about the conversion, making sure that if you know where you're going to be in a few years, in the beginning, make sure that you make sound investments that will allow you to get there and not have to swap out as you're starting to make your way, because that just adds to the confusion. The single biggest benefit for a Canadian or a New Yorker like myself is that after a long winter, DSE is sunny and there are palm trees, and BroadSign, we tend to stay at the Encore because we can just walk to the convention center. And compared to some of the other shows that we go to, being able to walk just makes the day begin with that much more of a leap in our step, I would say. But to be able to get together in one space with all of the folks that we need to speak with is a wonderful thing. We have offices all over the world, so we're pretty good at seeing our customers on a regular basis and seeing them in person, which we strongly believe in. But bringing them all together at one time is something that doesn't always happen. And at DSE, once again, I think everybody likes to come to Las Vegas at this time of year. We attract a lot of guests from Australia, from North America, from Europe. And once again, it brings our colleagues together, it brings our partners and our customers together, and we're able to celebrate the industry. And that is something that we don't get every day. So that would be the single biggest benefit, is the networking aspect.